Welcome to The Explainer. We're here to cut through the noise and get straight to the source material behind the biggest headlines. And today, we are really diving into a big one, the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, and, more importantly, the incredible justification that was used to greenlight the whole operation.
So let's get right into it. The story kicks off in the dead of night, January 3rd, over Caracas. Imagine being there. Suddenly, you're hearing low-flying jets, air raid sirens are wailing, and the sky is just lighting up with flashes. It was pretty clear that something massive was going down.
And things moved so fast, it was dizzying. It all starts around 2 a.m. with these coordinated strikes. Before you know it, there are reports of U.S. Special Forces on the ground. Then, word gets out that Maduro has been moved from the presidential palace. And then, just as the sun is coming up, the confirmation that changes everything.
Now, these weren't random hits. The strikes were incredibly precise. They went after key military sites like Fort Tiuna, which is their main army base, and several airfields. And interestingly, some of those airfields had long been suspected of being used in, you guessed it, drug smuggling operations.
And then boom, the confirmation comes directly from President Trump himself on social media. No ambiguity, no beating around the bush. He just lays it out there. Nicolas Maduro and his wife were in U.S. custody and out of the country.
You have to understand, this didn't just come out of nowhere. The pressure had been building for years. I mean, U.S. Department of Justice had a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head for alleged narco-terrorism. So the writing was, in some ways, on the wall. But that brings us to the real heart of the matter, the big question we're digging into today. A bounty is one thing, but a full-blown military operation to capture a head of state? What was the final piece of the puzzle, the official reason for taking such a drastic step?
Well, it seems the answer lies in this absolutely explosive letter, which the Dallas Express got a hold of. It was written by a man named Hugo Carvajal. Now, this isn't just anybody. He was Venezuela's former spy chief, a guy who was deep on the inside with both Hugo Chavez and Maduro. And at the core of Carvajal's letter is this group he calls the Cartel of the Suns. He claims this isn't just a few corrupt officials. He's describing a state-run criminal enterprise where the government itself is using the drug trade as a literal weapon. I mean, listen to his words right here. It's chilling. He's not saying the Maduro government is just an adversary. He's claiming they are actively waging a secret, unconventional war against the United States. So what does this war actually look like? Well, Carvajal doesn't just make a vague claim. He lays it all out, breaking down the threat into 4 distinct and, frankly, pretty terrifying allegations. Okay, first up, narco-terrorism. Carvajal alleges that the regime's drug trafficking isn't just for profit. It's a deliberate policy to harm America. He says the idea came from Cuba and that they worked with groups like FARC and even Hezbollah, giving them weapons, passports, and a safe place to operate inside Venezuela. The next allegation is just wild. He claims that violent gangs, like the infamous Tren de Aragua, are basically a state-sponsored tool, that they were intentionally sent to the U.S., not just to escape, but with direct orders to commit crimes on American soil as a matter of policy. And if you thought it stopped there, think again. The letter details decades of alleged espionage, and not just by Venezuela, but with help from Russia and Cuba. We're talking about claims of a Russian listening post on a Venezuelan island, and even Cuban spies inside U.S. naval bases. And just to show you how deep this goes, Carvajal even claims the Smartmatic voting system was first built as a tool for the Venezuelan regime to rig its own elections, and that this technology was then exported all over the world, including, he says, to the United States. So, as you can imagine, the moment the news of the capture broke, the story just fractured. 2 totally opposite narratives immediately started to form, both in Venezuela and right here in the U.S. On one side, you had what was left of the Venezuelan government. The defense minister came out swinging, calling it a foreign invasion, a complete outrage, and a violation of their sovereignty. Not a law enforcement action, but an act of war. So there you have it, the 2 completely different realities. Was this a necessary defensive move against a hostile narco-state, as the U.S. claimed? Or was it an illegal regime change operation by the American empire, as Venezuela and its allies were screaming? And of course, that same exact split was happening back in the States. Supporters were saying, it's about time we dealt with this threat. But critics were asking if this flew in the face of promises to stop fighting forever wars.
And, political analysts immediately pointed out that with midterm elections looming, the administration would have to sell its justification and sell it hard.
Which leaves all of us with the big, lingering question. Does this dramatic capture, justified by these incredible allegations of a secret war, actually put an end to a threat? Or did it just light the fuse on a brand new and maybe even more unpredictable conflict right in our own hemisphere?